Hello and welcome along to the Panto podcast. This week my guest is Neil Crossland. In this episode, Neil tells me all about how he's celebrating 50 years of making stageware. He tells me why he set up his company Stageware Unlimited, how he played guitar, and having one of the most famous customers in the world. Also in this episode, you might hear the sound of an iron whistling. That's because we were in his, his little workshop in the garden. So please, sit back and enjoy the latest Panto podcast. My guest for today's Panto podcast is Neil Crossland. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
And I'm in your beautiful little shed that's now your sort of retired... Well, how would you best describe what you're doing at the moment? Because you're retired,
I call this my mini stageware. Because it's not a factory, it's just a 20-foot by 10-foot shed. Fair size shed, but it's got an atmosphere.
Keeps you out of trouble.
Yeah. It gets me away from the wife.
So how did your love of costuming and theatre begin?
Originally, I used to work in my dad's music shop. I'm talking 50 years ago more now. But I worked in my dad's music shop and I played in bands. And then when we were with the bands, we used to travel around and we were always trying to find stageware. You couldn't get any. The shops didn't sell it. There were boutiques in those days, so I used to try and find something a bit different. But I remember us being in Leicester one weekend, Saturday, Sunday, noon and night. And on the Saturday afternoon, we were walking around the town waiting for the gig at night. We saw a shop and it had a yellow jacket in the window. So we went in and said, "Can we have 5 of those yellow jackets?" I said, "Oh, well, we've only got 2. But we've got another shop in Liverpool, they might have some, So, and we were ringing round trying to get matching yellow jackets. And I kept thinking, it's stupid this, And then when I finished grouping, around about 1971, 72, I then started managing acts, groups basically. And the lads in the band used to say, "You're the manager, find us some stageware, And I was ringing around trying to find stageware all the time. Just couldn't find it. And I thought, somebody needs to open a shop selling stageware. So, like an idiot, I was the one that did it. I had a crack at it, But I got 50 years out of it, so till I got to my retiring age. So it was all right. I've enjoyed it. It's been a good life.
So where did the sort of needle and thread come into it? At what age were you?
Yeah, needle and thread, to be quite honest. Never thought about that. It's when I did start, I thought I was just going to go round warehouses buying stageware, put it in the shop and sell it. And after 6 months I still had an empty shop. I couldn't buy stageware anywhere because nobody sold it, nobody made it. So I thought, well, I'm going to have to just find some women to make me stuff. So I started scribbling drawings up, buying fabric, advertising for women to sew. I had a lot of bad ones. You pick the best out eventually, but I used to have, I think I had about 10 outworkers, and I used to take them a drawing of what I wanted and the fabric and the measurements, and I left it to them to cut it and make it. And sometimes they fitted, sometimes they didn't, and I thought really, I didn't even know how to measure anybody at the time. I had to teach myself how to measure. And then I thought it really needs somebody to do the cutting out. If it's all cut out in the factory, well, I had a shop then. If it's cut out in the shop and then give it to the women, they just have to sew it together. So I asked the girls if any of them would like to come in and do the cutting, and they all said no, because if it's cut wrong, it's ruined. And they were scared to death to do it. So I thought, sod it, I'll do it myself. So I taught myself how to cut out, and then just gave it to the girls. And they were coming back and looking a lot better, at least. Because what happened once, I had a band called Magic from London. A good band, 5 of them. They were in a hurry. They needed 5 jumpsuits were all in then, back in the 70s. They wanted 5 identical jumpsuits. And what I did, to save time, instead of giving all 5 to one woman, I gave a catsuit to 5 women. But I got 5 entirely different catsuits come back. Some fitted, some didn't. They didn't look the same. So I thought it needs one person to do the cutting, and then they just have to piece it together. So that's what I did initially. So it got me started, but I then realised that the inside of the garment didn't look finished because it was just a domestic machine they were using. So I thought, oh, if I could get some proper industrial machines, so I've got a better finish inside. So I got a couple of machines, but then I had trouble trying to get the girls to come and work in the shop. They didn't want to work on industrial stuff, so I had to find other women to come under that side of it. And eventually I had an upstairs in the shop, and I ended up with about 3 women up there. But it just got bigger and bigger. Work kept coming in, and so that's when I bought the factory back in the early 80s. And just got more women then, so I had about 10 women in the factory. And it's been good. We've enjoyed life. So.
All just from a silly little idea about...
Yeah, somebody showed the stage wear.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any notable challenges over the years when it's come to stage wear?
What, in the different designs?
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of them were challenges really, because they're not just basic shirts or basic trousers. They always want some massive collars on them or something different. So you just have to draw it out with chalk on the cloth and piece everything together and hope that it comes back to the shape, that you want. And it takes time, but as the years go on, you get used to doing that. It's your job, so you just do it. I have had some unusual things. Many years ago, I had a stripper came in with a boa constrictor, no, a python, I think it was. It was about 10 foot long, and she wanted a white fur coat for it. And
for the snake.
Yeah, for the snake. And they brought it in, and we got it on the floor, and her husband held its head, and she held its tail and pulled it straight, and I had to measure it. And then we had to make this long white fur coat with a strip of Velcro all down one side of it. And what she used to do, she used to come out stripping on the stage, and she'd get down to virtually no clothes on, but she had this white boar feather round her neck, which wasn't a boar feather, it was a snake. And they'd always have these fellas in the audience, and there'd all some big bloke with tattoos sat on the front, be tough in front of his mates, and probably yapping away at the stripper, and she would go and stroke his head or whatever and sit on his knee, and he'd be showing off in front of his mates, like, look at me, how good I am. And then she would take the boar feather off her neck, put it over his neck, then she would walk away, and then she'd rip the fur coat off it and leave the snake round his neck. And she says, more often than not, that big tough guy ran like hell. Scared to death.
You don't get stuff like that anymore, though, do you?
No. I had another one I always remember it was Jolly Circus. And Peter Jolly, he came to the shop. He came in the back door of the shop. And he says, oh, could you make me a studded collar, a leather collar with studs in it? Not something I normally do, but yeah, I could do it for you. I said, what size? He says, oh, I'd need you to measure him. I said, oh, why, where is he? He's in the van. Bring your tape measure. So I got my tape measure and went out of the back door into the car park at the back of the shop. And he opened the back doors of this van, and there's a big brown bear in the back of the van. He says, just measure his neck, will you? So I threw my tape measure. I said, here, you chuppy measure him. I wasn't getting in there with the bear. And he said, he's all right. He said, I've just been to Yorkshire Television. He's been wrestling with a little lad. I said, yeah, but he might like little lads. He might not like me. So just unusual things that you have to do.
Have you ever thought about writing all your memoirs?
I thought about it, and hundreds and hundreds of acts have said to me, why don't you write a book? All the celebs you deal with and all the things you've done. But some people can sit in there. I mean, a lot of the acts, I've got some books in my office that a lot of the acts have written, and they've given me the books. I'll have my book and read it, like, you're in it and all this stuff, Bobby Nutt and quite a few. And I think, well, I'm not into pen and paper and writing. Some people are clever like that, but I'm not, you know. I can use my hand with a pair of scissors, but I'm not into... I don't class myself as being academic. I suppose if somebody who's a writer, if they came and sat like we're talking now, I can relate stories, as long as I can remember them. And if they can then turn it into a proper book, fair enough, like, you know. But would the public be interested? You know, it's the showbiz stories, and you know, so.
But showbiz has always been that show.
Yeah,
and it's all very much show, and you're part of the team, the behind-the-scenes team that doesn't really get the glory.
Well, that's true. It's but it's whether you want it, you know. I've just enjoyed my life being with entertainment. I mean, I used to be an entertainer, obviously, but I've gone through life going out for meals with, like, you know, Cannon and Ball, Grumbleweed, Dougie Brown and what have you. They're all friends, you know. It's
they're all just normal people.
Just normal
people.
Yeah.
That's what I
It's the public that put them on a pedestal, but they're only ordinary people, same as us.
And I think as well, this whole lockdown and everything like this has actually grounded a lot of the egos as well. Because
there are a lot of people out there that are having to work for a living, other jobs, you know. They're just not earning money at all, and it's sad, really.
What was the reason then why you decided to shut up shop?
Well, for one, I'm 75 years old anyway, and then when COVID kicked in last March, I could see the way it was going, that showbiz is worse state than any other business, I think. And my main business has been cruise ships, theatre work, holiday camps like Butlins, Warners and everything, club and cabaret entertainers, and none of it is working. So I've just been at home for a year doing nothing, yet I still had outgoings. The factory still cost me money, £800 a week, just for it to sit there. And as it happened, somebody wanted to buy it, so I thought, well, why not? You know, it's decided I might as well retire, because I still think it's going to be probably latter end of this year before it kicks off again. And for it to build back up to the level where I was would probably take another 2 or 3 years, and I'd been 78 or something, so maybe the time was right, you know. And like I said, I'm just doing a little bit from a shed at the bottom of the garden, just a bit of corporate work, and you know, just.
Oh, so it keeps you busy and ticking over.
I can pick and choose now. I've got to that age anyway. You know, they always say that when you get old, you get cantankerous. Well, I've been practicing for years, and that, so I can afford to turn around to people and say, "No, I don't want to do that. Sorry."
Are there any people who were more hard to please, shall I say, over the years?
Yeah, you got some that were so easygoing, no problem at all, and then you got others that were a bit picky. But as long as you're okay with them, you can work around it, you know. And
customers always right, they say.
Yeah, so they said. They're not, but they think they are. Some of them I would like to say, sod off and don't come back, but you don't. You
take their money and smile, don't you?
Exactly, yeah. You do it, and they come back there. You think you've got rid of it. Well, I'll not see him again. And then 6 months later, that jacket was great, I want another one, you know. I had one guy, a well-known television actor, a magician, and I always remember he always looked smart. Everything I made for him, he always looked good. He'll be up here somewhere. But I made him 2 suits, mohair suits, and I always remember he came in the shop and he put one on and looked in there and he says, "Oh, that's fantastic." Took it off, put the other one on. "Yeah, that's fabulous as well." And he put the first one back on, and then the second one, and I kept looking. I thought, you can't fault them. They're absolutely perfect. I'd gone to a lot of trouble because I knew we were finicky. And he says, "Can I borrow your tape measure?" So I said, "Yeah, okay." So I passed him a tape measure, and he measured. There were 2 buttonholes on the front, and he measured from the top buttonhole to the next one down, and then he measured the other suit. He says, "That's it." He says, "This one," he says, from that buttonhole down to the second buttonhole, he says it's 3.5 inches. He says, but on the other one it's 3.25, a quarter of an inch difference. You know, could you move the buttonhole slightly? I said, you can't move a bloody buttonhole. Yeah, but it's just fussy, but it's all right. It's fine. Don't worry about it. You know, and it still came years and years after that. You know. But, yeah.
And pantomime work then? When did that begin with yourself?
Panto I've made for many, many years, virtually since I first started. I don't design the Panto stuff. It's the companies that come onto you, and generally what I make for Panto, it's for the celebrities, for the names, because most Pantos, like Kudos or whatever, they use the same garments year in and year out, and they clean them and wash them, and then they go out to another lot. Well, a lot of the name acts don't want to wear something that somebody else has been sweating in for 6 weeks, 3 shows a day, you know. So what they do, the principals, they tend to say, I want, you know, if they're doing buttons or whatever, they want a new outfit to fit them. So I usually make for the principals, but I'm just given a drawing and a load of cloth, and I just cut it out to there, because most of the acts I've got the measurements on file anyway, so I don't even have to go and measure them. But one or two of the others, they've just said, oh, could you nip out and measure them for us? You know, they're working at so and so next weekend. I said, yeah, I'll do that for you.
See, after lockdown, there might be a couple of inches added on. Or...
Yeah, I think there'll be a few like that.
Yeah, me included.
Yeah, we're all there.
It's terrible, isn't it, when you try and put on a suit and just... Oh!
Yeah, and it's a bit snug. Yes.
A bit. So how quickly then can you, for instance, knock up a jacket?
Well, the working time, a jacket can be made in about 2 hours. Pair of trousers, maybe an hour and 10 minutes. A waistcoat, half an hour. Shirt, half an hour. But, you know, if you advertise that fact, I mean, people get on about going to Hong Kong and having a suit made, you know, same day. We can all do that, but you've got other people in line waiting, you know. So the only time I've ever really done that was for Charlie Williams. And he rang me up one morning. I'm going back maybe about 1980. He was still a big name then. And he had a television thing that night. And he says, he rang me up at maybe 9 o'clock. Can they get me out of trouble? I said, well, I've got to have this suit for tonight. So I said, well, what sort of ones you've got? He said, no, he said, it's got to be this beigey colour or whatever. So I says, yeah, okay, then get down. So he came running through. He didn't live too far away from my factory. And I re-measured him because I hadn't made him one for a year or so. So I quickly re-measured him, cut it out. I gave the jacket to one girl and the trousers to another girl. And Charlie just sat and had a cup of coffee. And we just sat and rabbited for 2 or 3 hours. And then a couple of hours later, put it all on, it fitted him, and off he went. So, but I say, you can't do that every day. Not unless you're geared up to do it, but it is possible. So,
you've made so many friends, as well as you said, over the years.
Yeah, I don't have customers, I have friends. Yes.
And your name's been synonymous. I mean, even now you said you've had messages asking to make you suits and stuff over the past couple of days. And
yeah. I've just done 16 last week for a guy. They're an ABBA band, but they've got a gig in Australia, and because of the lockdown and everything, they didn't know whether it was going to take off or not. They knew last year they were going to be doing it, but then it got put back and then put back and put back. So they then ordered new outfits, but they were taking an 8-piece band with them, and the band needed suits. So they rang me 3 weeks ago. Is there any chance you can make me 16 suits? Because they're going out next week. 1st of May, I think it is. We're in April now. In 2 weeks' time they go to Australia. So he got the suits last night. He sent me a nice text last night saying they all look fantastic, they fit great, so that was good. It wasn't for the band themselves, it was for the 8-piece backing band, but they needed 2 suits for this. I think they were doing a 6-month tour in Australia. So
Where do you travel around and source fabrics?
I used to do, yeah. I used to travel. Every Wednesday was my travelling day. I used to close the factory. That was my closing day, and then I used to set off to. I used to start off in Leeds about 8 o'clock in the morning. This is to warehouses, not shops. I go into Leeds, then I go on to Bradford, Bradford on to Manchester, Manchester down to Chesterfield, Chesterfield back up to Sheffield, and then back home. And I had the same warehouses I went to. When I had the factory, I had a lot of fabrics in stock, racks and racks of fabric. But it's all gone now. I don't carry anything. Just got that little bit up there, and that's what's accumulated over this last couple of weeks. Just leftovers.
You're still keeping yourself busy there.
Yeah. I just want to do a little bit now. I just want to potter, really. I've still got my jacket maker in Bridlington. He's 80 years old, and as long as he will keep working making jackets, I can make the trousers and what have you. And between us, we'll just do a little bit. But a lot of the stuff, I'll just let it go now. The bigger jobs, it's the Elvis Presleys and Freddie Mercury outfits that take a bit of time to make. So I'm not really. I don't need it. It's.
And then another famous singer that you're quite well known for tailoring, shall I say?
Jacko.
How did it begin with Jacko? That relationship.
It started probably in the 80s, late 80s. A guy rang me and asked if he could come and see me regarding Michael Jackson, and he came to my house actually at night, and we sat and chatted, and he said that he was Michael Jackson's dresser, and it turned up, this is back then, he got £1.25 million a year to dress Michael Jackson, and his job was just to travel around the world looking for unusual outfits or somebody to make unusual outfits. And he says, I've been given your name, like, would you be interested? So I said, yeah, I don't mind, I'll make for him. So I made the very first jacket, and it was in black suede, and they sent the buckles over from America. It had gold, but I've got a picture on the wall down there of it, and there was 12 solid gold buckles that they sent me to put on. And I thought, oh, shall I just put 10 on? Keep doing it. I thought, no, I better not. So I made it, sent it off, and he loved it. He had another 4 made after that. Oh, I sent it off. I didn't. They arranged for a guy to come and collect it to my factory. And one morning, the door opened and this fella came in, and he got overalls on with Michael Jackson corporates or something embroidered on the front. And he was in a juggernaut, 44-foot juggernaut, come to pick this jacket up. He couldn't even get down the street to my factory because it was a dead-end street. He had to park at the top and walk. And I said, what, they've sent a 44-ton wagon to pick up his jacket? So he says, yeah. He says, I just travel around collecting stuff. I go all over the world just picking things up for Michael. He says, when I leave here, he says, I've got to go across to France. I've got to pick up some boxes of chewing gum. He liked this French spearmint chewing gum. French chewing gum, it had to be nothing else. So he had to drive to France in a 44-foot juggernaut, pick up this chewing gum, and from there he was going to Switzerland to pick up some canisters of fresh air in big canisters, because at the time Michael Jackson was living in a bubble. I don't know if you remember or not,
yes,
but he went through a time where he was going to be a bit wacky and he needed this fresh air. So he would go to Switzerland then and pick up all these canisters of fresh air and then take them all over to America, And that's all he did all day, all his life, just driving around in a lorry picking stuff up for Michael Jackson. And my jacket was amongst it, so. But,
and was it used just in the tour or videos or?
Well, I've got a picture of him wearing it. It came out of a magazine, and he was in Germany then. He was doing a European tour, so he wore it on that in Germany. Because I say I've got the picture on my wall. I've never seen him on television wearing it, But I know he did wear it anyway. Well, he had 4 more after that. And then his management rang me from America after I'd done about the 2nd or 3rd one. And they said, Michael would like you to make a waistcoat for Janet for her birthday, for Janet Jackson. And I said, yeah, okay. He says, we've got the fabric. He says, we're going to put it on a special courier and get it over to you. And I says, don't bother about the courier. I said, just, it's only a metre of cloth, just stick it in an envelope. And he says, no. He says, this fabric is $4,500 a metre, which was about £3,000. Encrusted with diamantes it was. They sent it over, and I mean, then I had to make it. I mean, I kept looking, I think, if I cut this wrong, I made it right. So what I did, I cut one out in scrap cloth first, got my girls to sew it up, we made sure it was right, and then ripped it apart, and then I could then cut round it, and make sure that we didn't ruin any of the fabric. So, but she liked it anyway. I got a message again from Michael himself. Didn't ring. Probably didn't know how to use a phone, but the management rang me and said Michael would like to say thank you for making it, so, which was good at the time. So,
money, no object.
Yeah, money, no object.
I think that was his downfall, really, in the end.
Yeah,
Loads of people, if you're paying them millions,
yeah,
they're
just shelling out all the time, aren't they?
No,
they don't realise how fast it's going.
The poor bloke, what happened to him in the end.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at these bands as well, the Vernon Girls, Dakotas, Bachelors,
Jerry and the Pacemakers, the Searchers, Craig Douglas I used to make for. A lot of the old 60s acts I used to do for. So, and I still see quite a few of them, the ones that are still alive. And then we used to do for like Big Daddy, wrestler.
Oh, you did what did you do for Big Daddy?
Leotards for him, the leotards made, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And he used to make for his brother Brian Crabtree. He was the MC in the ring. He used to have glitzy jackets made, half red and half blue in lamy or something, I used to go to their house on a Wednesday. All the family were involved in the wrestling. Brian was the MC, Shirley was the wrestler, and then Max, the elder brother, he was the promoter. And he used to put all the wrestling matches on. But he used to make sure that whoever fought against them, they weren't allowed to win. Yeah. Otherwise they wouldn't get any more work. It was quite...
well, that was the thing as well, the wrestling. It's all show, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's all kidology. Some people believe it.
And I remember as a kid watching him, and the big event was him versus Giant Haystacks. And they were good friends in real life, weren't they?
Yeah. But they wouldn't let Giant Haystacks win. It had to be Crabtree that won, So, but I've got another guy. He's a bundle somebody Jones, I think they call him. I used to make the trunks for them for wrestlers as well. They're very thick, heavy-duty spandex material. And I said, do you ever get hurt? He says, no. He says, we get thrown about. He says, but you're taught how to land and everything. It's all rigged anyway. He says, the only time I got hurt at a wrestling match, he says, I'd won a match. He says, I was the baddie when they used to wear a mask. And he says, I was the baddie. And he says at the end, I'd take my mask off. He says, and I climbed out the ring. He says, I used to strut that, down the aisle, going back to the dressing room, like all big time. He says, and this little old lady on the front, they take it so seriously. He says, and she chased after me with a brolly, and she was hitting me across my back and everything. He says, and I had to run to the dressing room. He says, he said, I'm 6'5", I weigh 17 stone, and this little old lady was beating hell out to me. He says, and I got to the dressing room, opened the door, ran in, turned around to try and shut the door to get rid of her. He says, and the door handle, it caught his trunks and ripped him, and it made a big cut across his backside as well. So I had to repair his trunks for him, He says, that's the only time I've ever been scared.
Do you make your own jackets and clothes?
Yeah, I make all my own, yeah. That's one good thing. I've never had to buy any clothes as long as for 50 years really. My wife will buy me stuff, but
Yeah.
But generally, I just make my own stuff. So I could go in the morning and think, well, I'm going out tonight. I could do a new pair of trousers, so I'd just quickly cut a pair out, throw it in the workroom, and half an hour later they come back all pressed and everything. So,
You sound like a theatre dream. Have you ever been placed in theatres or anything like that?
In what respect?
In the wardrobe.
Wardrobe department. I mean, I've never gone in and done work there, but I'm always backstage at theatres anyway because I knew all the wardrobe ladies. Because whichever companies I were making for, if I made for the cruise ships or whatever, they would send me the measurements. I cut the stuff. My girls made them. We send them off. But every theatre then has a tweaker. What we call a tweaker in the business. They've got a sewing machine and it's their job just to, if the legs of the trousers are an inch too long, they just turn them up, or the sleeves of a jacket, So quite often when I go to theatres, I get invited backstage, and when I've been on cruise ships, they'll say, "Oh, do you want to come backstage in the theatre on the ship and just come and see all your costumes?" Because there's thousands of my outfits there on all the ships and that. Because I've always made for P&O and Royal Caribbean and whatever, So it's nice because they tend to look after you when you're on board. Put a bottle of champagne in your cabin and that,
Very nice.
Not really, I don't drink it. But my wife does. Yeah.
What would be your advice then for up and coming costume makers?
The business is there if anybody wants to do it. I mean, I started mine 50 years ago, and as far as I know, I am still the only one that specialised in showbiz. I've never served public. I've always just been show business, and I mean, I'm calling it a day now, but there's work out there for the people if they know how to do it. There are maybe about 8 other companies around Britain that I've worked alongside of, but they only make women's stuff. They're all scared to do men's stuff, making jackets and what have you. So they used to take orders and send them to me, which they still are doing actually. They'll take orders, send them to me, but there is room for somebody to take over from me. There's a nice living out of it if they want it. So it's just they've got to have the ability to sew. They really need to be in show business to understand what it's all about. I mean, I've grown up in show business, so to be able to talk to other acts and that, you need to be in the business, and you've got to have a fair knowledge about how to keep a machine working. I mean, when I had the factory, I had about 30 sewing machines, and every day one would break down, so you've got to be able to get your sleeves rolled up and get in there and fix it. You can't keep paying for somebody to come and mend your machines, so you have to learn to do it yourself, But there is a good business to be made, so if you know anybody that's looking for a business.
Going back then to your band playing days, what was kind of in your repertoire?
We were just a cover band. Well, we were a comedy band actually back in the 60s. We started off as just a normal cover band, just doing pop music, and then we realised that if you did a bit of comedy, you got £10 more. So we started doing a bit of comedy in between each number, and then it got less and less music and more comedy. We never made it. We had a decent name in the clubs, and we used to work. We got to doing nightclub work like Batley Variety and Wakefield Theatre Club and what have you. But we never got to be a big name, But we enjoyed it.
But you were making the contacts as well.
Yes, yeah. You met other acts all the time, So I mean, it's. And because my dad had a music shop, they all used to come to my dad's music shop for equipment, buying drum kits or guitars and everything, Because back in the 60s, music shops had a great time. After the Beatles started, everybody wanted guitars. So it was a good era. But in the 70s, it started to waver. It started dropping off a little bit, But that's when I left the music business and went into the stage wear business.
What did you play then?
I play guitar. I was a guitarist. We had two singers, two male singers. Then we had a keyboard player. He played a big organ with foot pedals on, so he played bass on the pedals. Then we had a drummer, and I was the guitarist.
Do you still play now?
No, I haven't. I hung my guitar up, probably about 1971, and I've never touched it since. Never picked it up. It doesn't interest me at all. I don't know why. I keep looking at it and thinking I ought to play, but I couldn't now because I've got arthritis in my fingers and through old age and 50 years of cutting with scissors, and my fingers have gone. So I wouldn't be able to play guitar now. I used to like doing a bit of magic at one time, but I couldn't manipulate now to do any card tricks or anything. Once your fingers have gone, you've had it. So.
You mentioned there about Batley. I mean, I've heard it's the stuff of legends, Shirley Bassey. And,
yeah.
I mean, the scene at that time, I would love a time machine just to be able to go right back and see it.
They were fabulous days. We used to go, when we weren't playing with the band, if we had a night off, we'd always go to Batley, because being an entertainer, you just signed the guest book and you went in. And some of the acts that we saw there, the Everly Brothers and, like I said, Shirley Bassey, everybody was there. Fabulous days. So, unfortunately, they were at their own downfall, because I know that Corrigan would pay, like Shirley Bassey, fabulous money to have her not to work at Wakefield Theatre Club. He would pay her more money to do his, but she wasn't allowed to do the theatre club. And because they were getting silly money off him, they thought they could get it everywhere else as well, and the prices kept going up, and she wanted the bar closing while she was on. You weren't allowed to serve drinks, but they need to serve drinks to get the revenue in, So it was, unfortunately, his own downfall in the end. But they were great shows, fabulous shows. But, I know we worked there and thoroughly enjoyed it. Good atmosphere. I put a few shows on there a few years ago. I used to call it Billy Pierce and Friends, and it was a charity. I would get maybe 8 or 10 acts on a night, so there'd be like Cannonball, Jimmy Cricket, Billy Pierce, Duncan Norville, Dougie Brown, the Grumbleweeds. Did I say Cannonball? Yeah, I'd have Cannonball and that. And we'd take maybe £30,000 on the door. I always paid the acts a decent fee, not the full money. You couldn't afford to give them full money, but they're always happy to come and do it because of the camaraderie, and all the money went to charity. So it was great. We had some great times there. But although it wasn't called Batley Variety Club then, it was the Frontier Club. It was a dancing place. But when I put a show, we always used to advertise it as Batley Variety, because people wanted to go take it back to Batley Variety days, So we used to call it the ultimate variety show at Batley Variety, and it was always Billy Pierce and Friends. Billy always did it for me, and then we would pick the next show we did. We'd pick another 8 or 9 acts to be on with Billy, and it worked well. We had some great nights, took some good money. But unfortunately, they shut it down altogether and pulled it down, which was a shame.
A bit like the futurist Scarborough.
Yes, yeah.
A shame.
Yeah.
Complete shame.
Yeah. A lot of theatres gone.
But I think... What do you think? Do you think Variety's going to make a comeback?
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure about it. I mean, I suppose... This is what happened probably in the 30s and 40s when the theatres were shutting down. Then club acts were taking over, pub and club acts and everything. And the variety shows didn't like it. And I know you have to move with times, and television was killing everything. And I think it's the same now, it's people stopping and watch television. There's nothing worth watching, but not many like to go out now. They're scared to go out now at night. There's so many druggies out there and what have you. And I think at the older end, they're just scared to go out and be coming home at midnight. They don't like it. So.
What was the last show you went to go and see?
Oh, crikey. You've got me there. I'm going to have to think on that one and come back to it. I've seen so many shows.
Well, who made you laugh over the years?
None of the alternative comedians, really. There are some good ones, but I still like the old stand-up comic. You know, the mother-in-law gags and what have you. It's frowned on now. But, I mean, there's some good comedians out there. But, I mean, people that are still working, like your Dougie Browns or your Mick Millers, they're still great acts, you know, but they've got to try and keep it. Just they can't talk about the mother-in-laws and that. It's a shame, really, you know. But got to keep it clean. But the alternative ones for me, they can't get a sentence out without swearing, and it's something I don't like, so I just keep away from them, you know. I mean, like your Peter Kay, he's a good guy. Lee Max and what have you, you know. But and I suppose the others are probably good, but I can't see they don't make me laugh, and yet I see them on television and there's all this laughter, and I think, well, it's got to be canned laughter because there's nothing funny about what they're saying, you know. But it could be just my age. Yes, leave it to the young uns.
So what's your idea then for the rest of your retirement? Are you still happy making, or?
Yeah, I don't want to be doing it as a living any longer. I'm happy just to potter in my little shed here, and if the phone rings and somebody says, "Can you do me a jacket?" or whatever, then I'll do it, you know. But I've never had to advertise. When I had the factory, I think I advertised the first year. I put a couple of ads in the Stage magazine and in the local Clubman's Guide. But then after that, I never advertised for 48 years. It just came word of mouth. So that's what will probably happen now, that somebody will keep ringing up wanting something making, you know, and I can just pick and choose. So if I want to do it, fine, I'll do it, and if I don't, I don't.
Some of the costumes, though, look incredible that I've seen. I didn't even know that you did Big Daddy's leotards.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I used to do all Freddie Starr, his red suit, they were all mine. Rick Wakeman, all his capes, he's famous for his capes, they were all mine. It's surprising, a lot of stuff that I've helped to create over the years, you know. Not that it's been my idea, some of it's been my idea, but you throw ideas in, you start scribbling and bringing a drawing up, you know, and say, well, why don't you have your cuffs like this, and why don't you have this and have that, you know. And then they chuck ideas in, and we do it between us. But I have dressed some great people over the years. People like Norman Wisdom, he was one of the nice ones I enjoyed doing. Probably because, I mean, I've never been in awe of entertainers, because we're all entertainers. But for me, Norman Wisdom, I used to watch him when I was a little kid, in 1950, something, and watch his films, you know. So to grow up and then get to a point where he rings me up and says, "Will you come and make me a suit?" And I fly over to the Isle of Man to his house, go for the weekend, you know, and then start making his suits. They actually buried him in one of my suits, you know. There's a few acts gone in my suits as well, being the last things I've had made. But it was nice for him to be able to ring me up. I enjoyed doing it. Another one was Boyzone. They rang me from Ireland. They wanted some outfits making, and asked if I would go over to Ireland. So me and my wife went over there, and managed to get them measured up. So you get to meet some nice people. So, like I said, they're only ordinary people when you get to know them.
Does it make you proud when you see them on TV and on stage?
Yeah, I suppose I don't bother too much now. I suppose I remember the very first suit I ever made that was going on television. It was I think it was a royal blue, royal blue colour. And I remember the guy saying, "Oh, it's going to be shown next Friday." I remember sitting in and putting the telly on and waiting for it to come on, you know. But now, nearly every television programme, because we do for Emmerdale, Last of the all Compo in Last of the Summer Wine, all the raggy suits, they were all mine. Make for Coronation Street. So nearly every television programme that's going, we've made for it, you know. So you get used to seeing your outfits on telly. Sometimes I might be sat in the house and there's something on the telly. My grandkids might come and say, "Oh, look, that's one of your granddad's suits." And "Oh yeah," and they carry on playing, you know. Doesn't mean anything to them.
Didn't they want to carry on the business?
No, the family's not bothered. But going back to Compo, I say all these raggy ones, I say a lot of people think they're from a junk shop, but they weren't. I always used to have to make them in threes, because when you saw Bill Owen in front of the camera, head and shoulders, that was him wearing the suit. When you saw him walking up a street, you know, 500 yards away, and the three of them are walking up a street, they're the doubles. He didn't do the long shots. And then I had to make for the doubles as well as him, but then I had to make for his stuntman, because when he fell off a bike or fell off a wall into a river, that was the stuntman. So you had to make 3 identical jackets. So if one had a rip in the left sleeve, all 3 had to have a rip in the left sleeve, you know. So
that must have been fun.
It was great.
Distressing suits.
Yeah, well, I didn't have that to do. I used to make the jacket in a browny colour wool. Then I would take it through to wherever they were filming near Firth, and the wardrobe department would then distress it. So that was their job. So I just made the actual jackets or trousers, and they used to put some string around and tie them up with string. So, but I got to be good friends with Bill. He was a lovely fella, but very lonely. He lived in a cottage through the summer when they were filming. He was up in Old Firth, and they put him in a cottage, but he was on his own. And quite often my phone would go at night, and "Hi Neil, it's Bill. Are you doing anything?" I said, "No, I'm just watching a bit of telly." "What are you watching?" And he just wanted to chat. He was lonely.
What a shame.
Yeah.
He was from the Carry On films as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he used to be on the Carry On films originally, yeah. Yes. So I've got a nice photograph of him. He sent me a nice photograph. Well, it's a drawing actually. Somebody had done a drawing of him, and he sent it to me and signed it. That's in my office. That's in the house. But I've got pictures of him down there wearing my outfits. So.
Have you ever watched comedians or bands and think, "Look at the state of that"?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine you.
I'm terrible for it. It's one of the draws. It's like when I played in a band and I was a guitarist, you go and watch another band and you think, "That guitarist playing that, he should have played a C7th there." You know, you're picky. And I'm like that with clothes. And I went with the Water Rats. Every February we used to go to America, to Vegas. There'd be about maybe a dozen or so of us. Because one of the Water Rats, the guy that's the Water Rat, his son owns Hollywood. Oh, what they call the hotel now?
Planet Hollywood?
Planet Hollywood, yeah. A multi-trillionaire. He's got them all over the place. He owns Planet Hollywoods, and he owns some restaurants as well, and I can't think what they call them. Well, this is
Planet Hollywood as well.
No, it's not Planet Hollywood. Schwarzenegger was involved with them, and Stallone.
Oh, the
Hard Rock Cafes.
Hard Rock Cafe.
Yeah, and he owns those as well. But his dad is well in his 90s, and he's too old to come to the Water Rats meetings in London. He can't fly over. So Robert Earl Jr., who owns all these hotels, said, "Right, if my dad can't go to the Water Rats can come to my dad." So he used to invite us over there, and he gave us all a big sweet each. Not a penny. He didn't charge us a penny. And he put meals on for us and everything, paid for drinks. So we used to go out there, and they'd fix us up to go and see shows. And I went to see one show in Vegas. You expect the best in Vegas. And this band that were on, they were supposed to be the Bee Gees, Australian Bee Gees they were. And they were on in Vegas for the summer season. And the clothes were diabolical. The band themselves weren't too bad. But whoever had made the outfit, they hadn't captured what the Bee Gees used to look like. If you're going to recreate something, do it right, you know. But they looked as though they'd been to a second-hand shop and bought some clothes and, oh, this'll do, you know. And I think when you're paying good money to see a theatre show in Vegas, you expect it to be done properly. But that's life.
Is there anybody you would have loved to have tailored for?
Yeah, twice I missed out on them. Oh, here we go again with the memory. I think I'm getting Alzheimer's. Status Quo. I know about, maybe 12 years ago, they were on at the Dome in Doncaster. And I found out a week or so later, somebody said to me, he says, oh, Status Quo were on, and they announced on stage, they said, we know there's a guy up this way, somewhere near Doncaster. He works from a shed, because my factory are a bit like a Nissan hut, and I always called it my shed. And I said, he works from a shed and he makes for celebrities, and we want some outfits making. Does anybody know him? And at the time, nobody in the audience knew me anyway, because the public don't know who I am. So I didn't find out until 2 or 3 weeks later. I thought, Christ, I've missed out there. You know, they obviously wanted some gear making. And then maybe 10 years ago, I got a call. We want some outfits making for Status Quo. So I said, yeah, no problem, I'll do that for you. She says, well, what it is, she says, back in the 70s, they did a big advert in Australia for, it wasn't Walmart, but it was a big shopping complex in Australia, similar to Walmart, but I can't remember the name of it. And she says they had a 30-piece band backing them, all wearing lame jackets and everything. And this supermarket chain wanted to recreate the advert again, but then bring Status Quo in as they are now, but wearing the same outfits. So would you be prepared to make them? So I says, yeah, I'll do them for you. So she says, okay. She says, would you come and measure them, or do they have to come to you? So I said, either way, I don't mind. So she says, right, we'll get it all in motion. They sent me all the pictures of what it would be looking like. And then I had a heart attack. And I got rushed into hospital. I had to have a heart bypass. And I missed it. I missed the deadline, so they had to get somebody else to do it. So I never got to do for Status Quo. And then one of them died not too long afterwards. So just one of those things. It would have been nice to make for them.
How is your health now?
Fine. I don't seem to have any problems. I've had cancer 3 times, and I've had heart attacks, and I've been in a car accident and smashed my leg up, broke my leg in 14 places, and metal plates and that, but still going.
Oh my goodness, and you're still standing up.
Yeah, still there.
Making the suits. I mean, what is it you're making at the moment then?
This actually is a teddy boy suit. I'm just cutting a teddy boy suit out for a guy. So it's all part of showbiz.
Well, this leads me on to my last question. And I ask all my guests this. So it's about your dream pantomime. So you can choose the production, you can choose the venue, you can choose the cast, alive or dead.
Wow.
And I will even allow you to design the costumes.
Well, if I was alive, I'd like to see Norman Wisdom in a younger image. I think it was just brilliant on stage, you know. So I think to see Norman doing something, but what panto would it have to be? I don't know really. It would probably be something daft like Aladdin, you know. But who would you put as Dame against him?
Yeah, the Widow Twankey.
Yeah, or Widow Twankey, but somebody like Biggins, I would think, has got to be a good one. You know, the punters love him. But yeah,
He'd be the we've got non-wisdom as wishy-washy.
Yeah.
We've got Biggins as Widow Twankey. We need an Aladdin. Good-looking.
Got to be Billy Pearce, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Billy can run a panto by himself. He holds a panto together. He's great for that. The other good ones, you know, up in Newcastle are Clive and Danny and Michael, the other son. They're not big names, but they can hold a show together brilliantly, pull the punters in. So, it would be good.
Who would you have as your Ebenezer?
It's got to be somebody evil. Crikey, who would you put in for something like that? There's been some good ones, but probably one of the nicest guys in the business who could do it would be somebody like Sam Kane. Because he is an actor, so he can turn his hand to it. So maybe Sam would do that. Just put the right makeup on him. I mean, he's a good-looking guy, so obviously you've got to rough him up a bit. But, yeah, probably Sam.
A few days without a shave.
Yeah. And put Linda in as well, Linda Lusardi, because that's his wife.
Genie of the Ring.
Yeah, she's lovely. So, and the couple of the funniest comedians has got to be the Grumbleweeds. They've always amazed me that years ago I used to watch the Weeds in Panto. We went every year to watch them, same acts all the time. And Robin would say that they'd bring somebody off Big Brother that can't act or anything. But unfortunately, they put the punters, put bums on seats, and then the Grumbleweeds have to entertain them once they've got them in. But they always did it brilliantly. Yeah, they're a great double act.
Lots of fun. And still going now with James.
Yeah. Well, I introduced James to Robin not long after Graham had died. We went out for a meal. There was a gang of us in the business, and I picked James up, took him with me in the car, me and my missus, and we were sat at the same table as Robin, so I introduced him to Robin, and they got on well. They started talking and talking about the business, got on great, and the next thing they've got a double act together again, so that was good. Keep the act going. I mean, Robin's, I think he's about 76, 77 now.
Oh, he still only looks in his mid-40s.
Oh,
isn't that right, Robin?
Yeah.
He still behaves like he's 18.
Yeah.
Across the stage with the box.
Clever guy. Very clever. He can make anything, that guy. He's repaired my cars a few times. And now he does jukeboxes all the time. He loves his jukeboxes. But he's very, very clever. And he's got to be the best impressionist we've got in the business. You know, I don't know anybody else that can do it as good as Robin.
Well, Neil, thank you so much for taking part in the Panto podcast.
You're more than welcome, Aidan. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Get the tape measure. Here we go.